Welcome back, listeners. We are excited to have you here today. Of course, I have the amazing Jacie Targett, who is the founder of Anam Seor, and she has an amazing story to share with you today of overcoming tons of trials and challenges. And welcome today, Jacie. We are going to dive into some of those entrepreneurial challenges that we struggle and face on the daily, how to overcome those, stress management, the things that come with entrepreneurship, and how you can really get back into why it is that you started this journey, who you authentically are, and living your life with purpose. So welcome, Jacie. Super excited to have you here. I would love to start by having you share your background and how you actually got to being able to help entrepreneurs and business owners in such a profound way, because I know that what you do is super transformational.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Every time you introduce me, Dena, I just get a little extra open-hearted and teary-eyed. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, what I do with entrepreneurs is I help them regain energy, like the life force energy that allows their businesses and their families and their communities to start thriving again. And I came into this, as most people who end up in any form of coaching or entrepreneurship, there's always a winding road that gets you there, right? So I've always been absolutely fascinated by mental health, but not just from a psychology standpoint, from a very whole body, mind, spirit, healing, growth, and purpose standpoint. That obsession for me is really the only word for it. It started from a very young age. I was raised in a really abusive environment. There was a lot of conflict and emotional discomfort and unsafety and tribulation kind of all around me all the time. This thing in my heart always just said, this doesn't feel right. And the way that I describe that, honestly, is one of my gifts from God from the moment I was born was a sense of discernment. And I was given that gift so that I could explore all of these avenues of breaking free of patterns that were hurtful to me and the people around me. So that's what kickstarted my in-depth discovery of healing. And I also come from lines of entrepreneurs. So I was enmeshed and ingrained in not working for other people. That was a really normal thing in my world. Trauma was also a really normal thing in my world. So it was nothing is ever black and white. Nothing is ever all good, all bad, right? I am so beyond grateful that I had the experiences that I did, because what it created for me was a desire for the freedom and the independence that I saw from the entrepreneurial side, combined and enmeshed with a sense of purpose, healing, wholeness, and being able to bring more of that to the world. So throughout my career and my education, I've done degrees in leadership. I've done a degree in business, a master's degree in counseling psychology. I've educated myself in energy healing and body work, and have been able to really accumulate all of that into a cohesive way of guiding other people, not only to the place of freedom financially and time and all the things that we see entrepreneurship bringing us, but also integrating that freedom, that energy, and that soulfulness into the way you live your life as an entrepreneur.
Yes. Oh, and that's so important too, that we are really staying aligned with who we are. So let's dive into that just a little bit. So when you talk about that, share a little bit more about what that means. As people, we're all different, right? So why we do the things we do, what motivates us, those kinds of things come into play. So touch on that just a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, this is one of my favorite parts. And this is what I love drawing people into themselves for, because my purpose is different than your purpose, which is different than your husband's purpose, which is different than your business partner's purpose. And yet we all have this one core similar purpose, which is in some way, shape, or form to bring light to the world, right? When we're able to connect to it. It's the pathway and the methodology and the drive behind what that light means for you, that's so critical to understand. And for myself, I know that my purpose for me is pure freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of energy, freedom of finance, freedom of choice, autonomy, freedom to love openly. Like this is who I choose to be in this life. And that's what my soul is guided towards. And because of that gift that I have, my purpose within my work with entrepreneurs is what is like, if we're going with this freedom focus, what gives you the biggest sense of freedom? So do you get the most out of life when you are helping people organize chaos? Right?
Right.
You. And
Yeah.
and the amount of light that you're able to bring into the world by connecting with that purpose of yours helps everyone around you be better.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of minute purpose within the larger purpose of bringing light to the world is so unique. And it's all that requires knowing yourself, and it
Mm-hmm.
requires knowing the difference between what's driving you soulfully or heartfully and what's driving you based on the stories you've been taught or the conditioning that you've had. So to live that really authentic life as an entrepreneur, as just as a human being, and what I do with people is help tease apart the stories and the conditioning from the heart and the soul and strengthen the connection with the heart and the soul so that every single decision that you make throughout your day, throughout your life is based in your personal purpose, your personal values, and your personal compass.
Yeah, I so love the empowerment that you gift your clients, because I was at a retreat probably about a little over about a year ago, and it was all entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest struggles that every single person had there was they didn't authentically know who they were. And I found that so heartbreaking, to like, the energy of that was just so heavy to me. Like, I immediately broke down and was crying. And it takes a lot for me to break down and cry. And I literally was like, "Oh my goodness, you have no idea what you're missing." There is such freedom in knowing who you authentically are and what you were designed to do. And I feel like everybody should know what that is. And like, you're
Mhm.
currently helping a lot of people that I know, which I've seen the transformation already, and they're still in the beginning of the journey of working with you. And I'm just like blown away at how profound your tools are and how you help people transition so quickly.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
That's so beautiful to hear.
yeah. I mean, I was just like, wow. And it's funny because, like, if you're really unclear on, where it is that you want to go, it's really difficult to make decisions about your future.
Yeah.
And, and so, that was one of the things that one of the people that you're helping was struggling with. And I thought, oh my goodness, JC is the perfect person to help you do this, because that's her specialty, and it's been phenomenal for this person, like phenomenal. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to work with her. And like, weekly, and all the content that you have, they go through it really quickly, and it's like, wow, this is just such a blessing for this person to be able to find that,
Mm-hmm.
you
So an
know
analogy came to me in terms of this, like the amount of space that gets freed up when you know yourself well. If you
oh,
think of like a sprinter, right? Someone who is
mhm.
extremely high level athletic sprinter, they train to preserve every ounce of energy in their body for very specific focused movement. And if that shaves a second off their race time, it's
Oh,
amazing. It changes the outcome of
profound.
so much for their life. And all of it comes from being so in tune with the microscopic movements of their body and their muscles that they are eliminating all of the noise. Now, if someone watched me run, it would be like seeing a baby deer try to stand up. I'm not going to go very fast, and I'm going to be really tired afterwards. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The exact same thing is true for our entrepreneurial journey and our personal journeys. If we're surrounded by noise because we haven't tuned in to our center, our body, our inner knowing, then yeah, we're going to be exhausted, and all of our energy is going to be put into trying to get our legs to stand properly instead of this direct forward motion.
Mhm.
And just imagine for a moment that you have 6 different marketing tools in front of you as an entrepreneur. And instead of wasting a year trying to implement all 6 of them, you know yourself and your own way of working so well that you can immediately discern within the first 5 minutes which of these is best for you. Trust yourself so much. You completely commit to that one path for a year. And at the end of the year, instead of being burnt out and maybe 2 steps ahead, you are more energetic, more wealthy with time, finances, and energy. And you get to look back at the past year thinking, I made the absolute most of that because I knew myself enough to cut out the noise.
Absolutely. I love, love, love that analogy. And sometimes in entrepreneurship, the decision-making process can be paralyzing like that. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to choose. I don't know the difference between these 6 items. You know what I mean? But I love that knowing yourself really does help you make those decisions. You know your patterns. You know what you're capable of. Is it going to be something that you do? Do you need help doing it? Those are the kinds of things that, like, I mean, maybe I don't need a DIY system. I need a done with me or a done for me, because I need the process to be complete. And I love that you know that about yourself. And it's
I was
been super
laughing at the
helpful.
decision paralysis because week 2 of my program, I might as well, I don't have it titled decision paralysis, but I should, because that's
You
exactly,
should.
it's like the first thing we go into in the program is decision paralysis steals your time. It steals your energy. It steals your confidence. It strips away so much of who you are as a business owner and a human being. And the first thing we get rid of is decision paralysis.
Oh, I love that.
And that's, I
Love
think,
that.
one of the, I know the person that you're talking about is really early on in just the decision paralysis part of it. And that's one of the things that really creates a trajectory for people for the rest of the time that I work with them is we get rid of one of the biggest problems immediately.
I love that. That is so profound because when you can make decisions in a split second and authentically you're like, I'm going to go with it, or even you feel like 100% sure about it. You've got that and you feel like 100% sure about that. And you are like, I got this. That discernment kicks in, you're smooth sailing and you run with your decision. There's something so empowering and freeing about that. I personally know the benefit of having that discernment and being able to really know what is the clearest path because I authentically do know who I am and who I was designed to be. And I feel like that is so freeing. When I was at that retreat and most of the people there, pretty much majority of the people there, didn't know who they authentically were. And I just thought that was just so heartbreaking, not knowing and living in your purpose. You feel like something's always missing, and that fulfillment that you're seeking, it's like you forever look and look and look, and it's almost like you can't find it, but it's within. It's not outside, it's within. And so I love that you're giving your clients tools and entrepreneurs tools to achieve that, to look inside and find what that authentically is inside of you. Seek and find those tools, leverage who you are authentically, soul searching, those kinds of things. So I love that. Now, one of the things that many entrepreneurs struggle with is isolation. So sometimes, we feel like we're the only person that's experiencing this whole thing. And because we are usually solopreneurs, a lot of times we get hung up on, I have to do everything myself, or, I'm the only one that can do this, this, and this, or I'm alone here. Tell me a little bit more about how what you do helps to solve that for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so there's 2 things here that I think are really important to point out before we even get into how I help people do it. One is A lot of people become entrepreneurs or solopreneurs because their earlier life experience showed them that other people aren't trustworthy. And so that ingrained hyper independence is not necessarily a problem of the entrepreneur. It's more of an internalized worldview that encourages you to become an entrepreneur. It's a bit of a chicken and the egg situation. But I think it's important to know, because if that's already your worldview, and then you make choices based on that worldview to work on your own, to be a solopreneur, to build something yourself, you then build something that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I am the only one who can do it. I have to do it or no one else will. And it builds up a really strong sense of importance within you. So the next thing that we have to look at there is how much does that significance and importance, that self-importance, play in to the fulfillment of your own stress? Not in a judgmental way. Like, we're not talking about people being egotistical maniacs here, but just being really honest with yourself of, well, I've already decided that I can't trust other people, so I have to do it all by myself, to the point that I'm not even willing to ask for help. I'm not even willing to try bringing someone new in. So this discernment and decision paralysis and inner knowing, what it does is it unravels that from the root. It builds trust in yourself so that you trust yourself to choose good, reliable, caring, supportive people. And then your whole worldview of hyper independence starts to unravel in a really positive way. And it allows you to no longer be an island. It allows you to no longer isolate yourself. It gives you the confidence in yourself to let other people in, because you know you're going to pick the right people. Where was that? It no longer requires you to be an island, because you're learning how to trust yourself to pick the right people.
I love that.
And so we start to unravel this whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
profound. You do business in a whole new way.
It really is.
You know?
Completely. The greatest change of my life as a businesswoman was when I realized isolation and being an island doesn't make me better at what I do. It doesn't make me a stronger person. It doesn't make me more admirable. It doesn't make me any of these things. But connecting with people who are really successful, really good at what they do, allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing here, or vulnerable enough to say, I just don't want to do it alone anymore. That's when, like, so much meaning developed in my business relationships.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're designed for connection. We're designed to partner. You know, in the Bible it says, man shouldn't be alone. And that is so profound when you do take on those partnerships. I mean, I'm partnered with somebody who is phenomenal. I sought her out. I looked for her and noticed that she had the strengths that were my weaknesses. I knew I needed her. She kept telling me no. She didn't want a partner. And then finally I was like, I think after like 5 or 6 times, she's like, okay, uh, and her husband kind of talked her into it. But I was like, oh, thank God she finally said yes. There is like nobody better that I could be partnered with. Her and I work so well together. And I mean, I know that partnerships come with their own, little ball of wax, but it has been absolutely profound. We collaborate, we sit down, we look at the pros and cons, we make decisions together. Like, it is one of the best partnerships I've ever been in, and I absolutely love that because we're partnered, we get to level up so profound. And it's things that we couldn't do on our own. And so partnership so important. And when you open that whole door open, wide open, and you say, okay, you know what, I'm ready to be partnered with somebody that is, that has my strengths as my weakness, you then open the doors to so much more as an entrepreneur.
You do. And one of the ways that I intentionally create space for that type of connection to happen and to start unraveling these stories that people have about hyper independence and isolation is I pretty much exclusively work with people in group contexts. So it's group coaching, small groups, because I really like to be able to dive deep with people for now. Like bigger groups are coming. That's in the works in the background. But that group environment it forces you to look at the fact that you're not the only one feeling this way. It really challenges these beliefs that it's just me, no one can understand. Everyone has a slightly different story there, but it's something to that effect, right? And it builds a sense of unity among people who might be in totally different industries, but have these similar experiences. And you just start to realize I'm really not alone here. And developing relationships and friendships, even if it's not business partnerships, but developing meaningful relationships with other people who are experiencing these things completely changes the way that you look at it. Statistics actually show that in a healthy, supportive, guided community, the internal individuated change that happens occurs 5 times faster than it would one-on-one with a practitioner. So we aren't meant to do it alone.
I love that you have all these tools. I mean, with your, psychology background and having so much knowledge about how we process and think, just it gives you that added, bonus to be able to get people where they need to be in order to excel and be their highest vibrational self, which is so profound. And so tell me a little bit more about entrepreneurial burnout, because that is a big, huge problem for a lot of entrepreneurs. We get so ingrained in our passion that we, like we get so obsessive with it that it's like we just have to do it all the time. Like it's really hard to stop working for a lot of people, and separate things out, and it's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things about that is when we get a little bit hyper focused or hyper fixated on something, what's happening in the brain is actually speeding up. It's creating a bunch more of the brainwave called beta, which is focus, it's linear thinking, it's achievement oriented, and it's a little bit addictive. It's where stress comes from, it's where anxiety comes from, it's all of these heightened but chaotic states of being that start to run through you. And when you're up there, it's kind of like being on a stimulant drug. You don't want to come off of it. That's fine in short period bursts, right? But you have to learn to manage it so that you are utilizing that energy, but the energy is not using you. It's a really important differentiator. And I have a fantastic example of a client that I recently worked with. And I said, what's your dream? Like, what's this vision you have for your life? And it was a quiet cabin in the woods with trees and forests. And they were like, when I have all the money and I don't have to work, like I'll still talk to clients, but I can do it on my own time. And I just want to be here. Like, okay, cool. What does that bring you? What are you craving from that image? And after we boiled it down a few times, it was just peace and this sense of being left alone for a minute. So I was like, this is really good. You want peace in your life. You want moments where you can be left alone, where you can settle, where you can relax. And then I asked, what are you doing right now that provides you that? And as we spoke about it, it turns out this person could literally not leave their cell phone for more than 5 minutes at a time without anxiety.
Wow.
And I said, how do you think you're ever going to be left alone in a peaceful cabin in the woods if you can't walk away from your phone for more than 5 minutes? Because if you can't do it now and you don't fix it now, 10 years from now, when you're in that cabin, you're not going to be any more relaxed. You have to fix the problem now. And this is where entrepreneurs go wrong. The burnout, to stay on point, to stay like kind of on that trajectory, the burnout is destination addiction. And I'll be happy when I reach that next sales goal, when I hire that next person, when I get that new house, when the office gets a bigger building, but you're not fixing the problem now. Like, no, you want to be left alone for 15 minutes. And if you can't do that now in a state of calmness and enjoy it, you're not going to do it 10 years from now. So that's where this burnout cycle kicks in. And the decision paralysis that we spoke about earlier, huge part of that, because when you're that focused on all the destinations, you're also simply obsessed with the routes to get there, and you never give yourself time to rest. So one of the stories that I tell often in my coaching group is 3 years ago, I was extremely ill. One of the stories that I tell in my coaching group during the decision paralysis session is 3 years ago, I hit a degree of burnout that had me bedridden for a year. I was in so much physical pain, I couldn't move. I cried every day. Yeah. So I was bedridden for a year. I was in so much physical pain from the stress that I couldn't walk. Every joint in my body was completely inflamed. I cried every single day because of between the pain and the stress and all of it. And I quite literally had a maximum 4 hours a day that I could function. And that was a good day. If I had 4 functioning hours, I was killing it that day. Yeah, exactly. And so the gift of that is pure discernment, because when you only have 4 hours a day to feed yourself, personal hygiene, still working as much as I was able to, a simple trip to the grocery store, because I had to move so slowly because of the pain, just getting groceries was an hour and a half long ordeal. So every single day I had to make these choices. Which parts of survival am I going to focus on today? And what can I do for work? What am I able to do? So I promise this is not a sob story. There's purpose behind this. It forced me to get so clear, and it forced me to be so present, because the decision paralysis that occurred, do I walk to the kitchen and get food, or do I go shower? Because I only have energy for one of these right now. Absolutely honed and mastered my skill of where do I put my focus, and I can only put my focus in this one space. And that's why I really developed a lot of these tools that I teach people on how to utilize what they already have and make the most of it. Because what I had was very little. But how did I how in any given day would I use that to the best of my ability? And if it was a day that I could only get out of bed long enough to eat and then go back to sleep, I would bring a personal development book with me or my guided meditations. And I would use that time that I couldn't get out of bed to do something for my mind, something for my heart, right? If it was a day that I had a little more energy, then I might use it reaching out to clients and doing a little bit of admin, or maybe a counseling, whatever it was, a counseling session, whatever it was that day. But I couldn't plan ahead, because I never knew where it would land. And I had to be just completely in the moment, like the absolute definition of pure presence and acceptance. And the degree of that allows me to now help other people get super clear on where are you putting your energy? How are you using it? What choices are you making that are going to benefit you the most right now? Because what's going to benefit you the most right now will eventually benefit you long term. And not even eventually. The more focus you put on right now, the faster that long term starts to unfold. So burnout really stems from going too long, too hard, too fast in too many directions. And it destroys your body. It destroys your mind. It destroys your heart. And so many entrepreneurs feel like that dead inside feeling.
Well, because they've exhausted all their resources. And that burnout is like steps farther past stress. So you help the entrepreneur when they're in the stress state as well, preventing them from going into that stress state, which then prevents the burnout. And so I love that you help entrepreneurs, prevent that because it is so prone to be functioning at this like, you know, superhero level, where you're just like exhausting all your resources all the time. And that does lead to burnout. That is a huge challenge for on many, many entrepreneurs, right?
And I don't want to see people push themselves to the degree of illness that I experienced, right? Like people don't need that. There are 1,000 steps beforehand
Oh yeah.
to heal
Yep.
yourself, to work on things, right? Put the phone down for 15 minutes now so that 10 years from now you can enjoy that cabin in
Right.
the
Yeah.
woods.
And practice, there's so many good practices that you're talking about that make a profound difference mentally and physically. And so I love that you're sharing all those tools that not only helped you, but they've helped thousands and thousands of other entrepreneurs. And so on this journey, when you work with somebody, what does somebody get when they work with you? Like what are you you don't have to tell all the tools that you utilize, but like when they're working with you, what can they expect?
Yeah. So I have my signature course. It's called Redefine. And it's a small group, which you meet with your small group twice a month. And if there's multiple cohorts going, we do a bigger group twice a month. So we alternate weeks with your small group and your big group. So you're meeting more people. So everybody gets weekly calls for the 6-month period of the program. And in those calls, we are diving deep into these tools. Some of the calls focus on like training and education and me providing tools and helping people discern which of those tools are best for them. Some of the calls are focused more on sharing amongst the group so that people are learning from each other. I am a guide, right? I have experienced these tools. I know that they work and I want to teach them to people, but everyone learns from each other. This is not like me knowing everything, teaching everything, right? And the other thing that I love about the work that I do is there's a structure to it. There's an intention behind when I teach certain things, why I teach them, building foundations so that they can get more intense as we go through the course. But there's tons of leeway in there. And even last week, I had a call with one of my groups. I jumped on and I said, how's everybody doing this week? And everyone on the call was like, not good. So everyone was really stressed, like personal events that had happened that had kind of just catalyzed, like I'm using all the tools and I'm so glad that I have them. But this was a really hard week.
Wow.
So instead of going into deeper work and more education and me throwing information at them, we did a total pivot and we spent the entire hour and a half that we were together breathing, journaling, sharing, and just creating a space where everyone got to turn off for an hour and a half because that's what they needed.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of flexibility. There's there's like the connection, the community, and it just is beautiful to watch the relationships blossom and to watch people come into themselves more strongly. And you're empowered because you're doing the tools, but you're also inspired because you're watching other people. It's so amazing. It's so incredible to watch and be part
It
of.
is. And the power of a small group, which, we all know the psychology of that, the benefits that we get from being coached in a small group are far more profound than one-on-one coaching. And so I love that
Yeah.
you're utilizing that for, the breakthrough, the strategy, the gifting that comes from connection and community. That's huge. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. So, how would somebody get a hold of you when they work with you? They want to work with you.
So I will give you my phone number that you can put right in the show notes and people can text or call me. That's a really easy way. If you prefer email, you can reach out email, and my website is annamsare.com, which all of that can be popped in the show notes. But Yeah, I'm reachable online and by my phone.
They can text redefine.
I do discovery sessions.
Redefine,
Redefine. Yeah.
and they can text that to your number. You can go ahead and give the number on here if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. So my number is 506-429-6663. And anyone who's interested can text that. We can do a discovery call. I like to just meet people. So one thing I emphasize anytime I'm talking about what I do is you're not getting on a discovery call to get a sales pitch. To be completely honest, it's a two-sided interview. Like, I'm only going to bring people into the group who are a good fit for the group, for your benefit, for my benefit, for the benefit of the group. So this isn't jumping on and me trying to convince someone to join the call. So please reach out with questions. And I just want people to feel really comfortable and safe in the fact that we can have those conversations without there being any pressure. It's really about, what do you need? And if I can't give you what you need, I have amazing coaches around me who I can help you connect with as well.
So amazing. I love it. Any words of wisdom for our listeners?
I feel like there's so many, but one of the focuses that has been coming up a lot lately, so I'll just kind of share a theme that's been coming up, is giving yourself permission to step back from doing all the time and to sit in just being. And that might not make sense to people who are listening. So what I mean by that is, stop taking action for 5 minutes, sit down, relax, like let your legs melt into a couch. Let yourself melt into the back of your chair. Drop your shoulders, close your eyes, feel your breath, and just exist for a few moments. The world's not going to burn down around you because of it.
Despite what you may think, right?
Exactly.
That you bring that up, because I was just reading a book, and one of the things that was mentioned in the book is that we're living in such a fast-paced society right now that we no longer take the time to slow down and think. Like, because the thoughts just constantly come. And so I love that you're saying, sit down, sit with who you are. Like, this is why we don't know who we are. We don't take the time to even try and figure it out, Sit down and just be. Let your mind calm.
The first thing I do every morning is I go stand on the deck in my backyard where I'm a big gardener, and I stand with my herb garden, and I just pick one or two of the herbs and I smell them.
So cool. They smell so amazing.
And that's it. There's nothing wild and crazy that I do in the morning, but that's part of me just existing with something that I love.
Yeah. And even smells are so profound too. So it's like you get the memory mixed with the, the experience. I love that. I absolutely love that. So many amazing tools that you have and knowledge that you have given us today, listeners. I hope you have as many takeaways as I do and more. Jacie is absolutely phenomenal to work with. Those of you that are partnered with Upleveled Strategies, you get some bonus items with her. She has some giftings and some amazing tools, and just is so profound at helping entrepreneurs catapult forward and really get you on the path to stress, calm, and running your business like a professional. And I just absolutely love what you do, Jacie. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have not already, subscribe, share this podcast with somebody you know. We look forward to hearing your questions, any comments that you have, what was helpful for you, what did you find the most profound in what Jacie shared today. We look forward to hearing that. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode of Upleveled Strategies.